Good morning. This is Arvind. So in the previous chapters, we have discussed about what is software project management, and we have seen what are the different activities of the software project management and the different challenges we see or we face in the software projects, and who are all the different stakeholders, objectives and goals of the project. And in the next part, we have discussed about the project planning. In that, we have discussed in detail about the stepwise planning. Now, in this particular chapter 3, we will discuss about the project approach. So in that, we will see what are the different life cycle models, what is waterfall model, what is prototyping, what is iterative model, what is incremental model, what is spiral model, what is agile model, and what are the V models. So these are the different types of models we will discuss in this particular chapter. And in the next part of this particular unit, in the chapter 4, we will discuss about the process framework, in which we will see life cycle phases, process artifacts and process workflows. So coming to the selection of a project approaches, a system developed methodology refers to the framework that is used to structure, plan and control the process of development of any informative system. So a wide variety of such frameworks have evolved over the years, each with its own recognized strengths and weaknesses. One system development methodology is not necessarily suitable for use by all projects. So each of the available methodologies is best suited to specific kinds of projects based on various technical, organizational, project and team considerations. So in house development, most of these issues are being resolved by information system planning and standards. So for selecting the approach, we need to understand the uncertainties of the project and the properties of applications to be used in that particular project. So the general approach, what we use for identifying which model to be used is, we need to look at the risk and uncertainties. That is, either the requirements are well understood by the concerned persons, or the technologies to be used are well understood. Later, we need to look at the type of the application what we are developing. So what is the information system, whether it is an embedded system, or what is the criticality, what is the difference between the targets and the development environments. That also we need to consider. And lastly, we need to find out what are the client's own requirements. So based on the client's requirements also, we need to select the particular model. So now let us see the first model, that is a waterfall model. So what is a waterfall model? What are the uses of waterfall model? What is the framework of the waterfall model? What are its strengths and what are the weaknesses? And where we can use this waterfall model and where we cannot use this waterfall model, that we need to understand. So the waterfall model was the first process model to be introduced. So it also refers to a linear sequence life cycle model. So it is very simple to understand and use. So this waterfall model is very simple to use and very easily we can understand this particular waterfall model. So in waterfall model, each phase must be completed fully before the next phase can be begin. So we need to complete each and every phase. So this type of software development model is basically used for the projects which is small and there are no uncertain requirements. So at the end of each phase, a review takes place to determine in the project is in the right path or whether or not to continue or to discard the particular project. So in this model, software testing starts only after the development is completed. So in the waterfall model, the phases do not overlap. So here we can see the different stages in the waterfall model, and these waterfall model, we will go from the stage 1 to stage 2 only after completing the waterfall model. So we cannot come back. So within that particular model, we can come back. So what we can say is the project, what we are doing is divided into sequential phases. So phase 1 consists of requirement gathering and analysis. Phase 2 consists of system designing. Phase 3 implementation phase, testing phase, development of the system phase, and maintaining phases. So these are the different stages. So the first what we need to do, we need to divide the project into sequential phases with no overlap and splashbacks acceptable between the phases. So here this particular plan emphasizes us if we are concerned with time scheduling, targets, dates, budget, and implementation of the entire system at one time. So tight control is maintained over the life of the project through the use of extensive written documents, as well as the formal reviews or approvals are done by the user on the information technology management occurring at the end of the most phases before going to the next phase. So here this particular waterfall model is having so many advantages, and at the same time it has the disadvantages. So this particular model supports for less experienced project teams and project managers or project team leaders whose composition fluctuates. In that kind of situations, we can use this particular project. And the orderly sequence of development steps and strict controls for ensuring the adequacy of the documents and design reviews help to ensure the quality and reliability and maintainability of the developed software. So in this particular model, the phases are processed and complete one at a time. So phases do not overlap. So progress of the system development is measurable here in this particular model. So waterfall model works well for smaller projects where requirements are very less understood. Very less requirements are there, and all these requirements are understood. Only in those cases we can use the waterfall model. At the same time, there are so many disadvantages of the waterfall model. So once the application in the testing stage is in the testing stage, it is very difficult to go back and change something that was not well thought out in the concept stage. So no working software is produced until the late during the life cycle. Here we cannot complete until all the phases are being completed, then only the complete model will be identified. So we can say, from this we can say it is inflexible, it is very slow, it is costly, it is cumbersome due to the significant structure and tight controls. So here the project progresses forward with only one slight momentum backward. That slight momentum is also only within that particular phase. So little room for use of iteration, which can reduce manageability if at all, if we can. Okay, so it depends on early identifications and specification requirements. So these are all the different disadvantages, and some more disadvantages. We can say that these problems are often not discovered until the system testing. So until all the phases are being completed, once we do testing only, then we can identify the problems. That is the major disadvantage. So here, for big projects, are the projects which are more complicated or with high, we cannot use this particular method. Then in which kind of situations we can use this particular approach is this particular waterfall model is the projects for development of mainframe based systems or transaction oriented based systems. We can use this model, and these projects is large, expensive and complicated. So project must have clear objects and objectives and solutions. When we have clear objectives and when we have clear solution, then only we need to go for this particular model. We need to go this particular model only if there is no pressure, or when there is no hurry-burry in implementing that particular model. When we have more time, then we need to go for this particular project. So from this, what we can say, the project requirements can be stated unambiguously or comprehensively. So project requirements are stable. When the project's requirements are stable or unchangeable during the system development life cycle, in that particular sort of applications only, we need to go for the project model. So this particular kind of waterfall project model. And when the team members may be inexperienced, so if the team members are inexperienced, or they are expected to, the team members are expected to fluctuate, as we have discussed earlier, or the project managers may not be fully experienced, or resource need to be conserved. In such a sort of situations, we need to go for the waterfall model. Now, where we cannot use this waterfall model? We cannot use this waterfall model for large products, where the requirements are not well understood, or where the changes for any reasons such as external changes or changing expectations or budget changes or rapidly changing technologies. In such kind of situations, we cannot go for this particular waterfall model. We cannot go for the waterfall model for real-time systems. We cannot go for the waterfall model for event-driven systems, or we cannot go for the waterfall model for leading-edge applications. So these are the places where we cannot use the waterfall model. Now, coming to the second one, that is prototyping. So here, the prototyping methodology, what do you mean by a prototype? What is a prototype model? So which is not actual. So here, a software prototyping refers to building of software application prototypes which displays the functionality of the product under the development, but may not actually hold the exact logic of the original software. It is not original, but it resembles something like original with some minimum number of features. It is something which is like your demo piece when you go for a mobile shop to buy a mobile. So he will open the almirah and he will show you one mobile demo piece. So it is not going to have the complete features. So with the minimum number of features which can run, but not going to work with that extent. So that is what is called as an prototype. So here software prototyping is becoming very popular as software development models, because it enables to understand the customer requirements at the early stages of the development. And it helps us get valuable feedback from the customers. So that helps us, the software designers and the developers, understand about what exactly is expected from the product under the development. So here the customer is going to give continuous feedback in the prototyping model. Based on this, we can make as many number of changes. So first, this prototype model, what we have defined or what we have investigated, that need to be sent to the within the company users or to the some of the inbuilt customers, in-house customers, they will use it and they will say what are the different problems they are facing while using that particular software or a particular phone or whatever the mobile or whatever the application they are using. Then what we need to do, since it is just a prototype, we need to rectify. Once all the problems are being solved, then we need to duplicate the original thing. So prototype is nothing but it is a dummy model. It is a small model which has some of its features, but which is not a real. So what exactly is a software prototyping? So prototyping is nothing but it is a working model of the software with some limited functionalities. So this prototype does not always hold the exact logic used in the actual software applications and is an extra effort to be considered under the effort estimation. So prototyping is allowed to users evaluate the developers' proposals. So here the prototyping will be allowing the users to evaluate the developers' proposals. So here they try them out before implementation. So it will help us in getting the exact product with good quality. So it helps us understanding the requirements which are user specific and may not have been considered by the developers during the product design. So here we have so many different types of software prototypes used in different industries. They are throwaway prototypes. We can also call them rapid prototypes. We have evolutionary prototypes. We have incremental prototypes. We have extreme prototypes. So all these are different types of prototypes. So here, for example, if we consider the throwaway prototype, so throwaway prototype is also called as a rapid or closed-ended prototyping. So this type of prototyping uses very little effort with minimum requirement analysis to build the prototype. Once the actual requirements are understood, the prototype is discarded and then we develop the actual system with a much clear understanding of the user requirements. Whereas coming to the evolutionary prototype, so evolutionary prototype we sometimes call as an breadboard prototype. So this is based on building actual functional prototypes with minimum functionalities in the beginning. So the prototype developed forms the heart of the functional prototype on top of which the entire system is built. So by using the evolutionary prototype, the well understood requirements are included in the prototype and the requirements are added as and when they are understood. Then coming to the third kind of prototype, that is incremental prototype. So here this incremental prototype, which refers to the building multiple functional prototypes of various subsystems and then integrating all the available prototypes to form a complete system. So this is what we call an incremental prototype. And the last kind of prototype is a extreme prototype. So here the extreme prototype is used in web development domains. So it consists of 3 sequential phases while developing this particular kind of a prototype. So first, a basic prototype with all existing pages is presented in the form of HTML format. Then the data processing is simulated using the prototype service layers. And finally, these services are implemented and integrated to the final prototype. So this process is called an extreme prototyping because it is used to draw the alterations to the second phase of the process, where a fully functioned user interface is developed with very little regret to the actual services. So these are the 4 different types of prototypes what we can use. So let us see the reasons behind the prototyping. So why we need to use this prototyping technique. So we learn by doing it, we improve communication, it will have more user involvement. As we said that always we get the feedbacks is being collected from the consumers and reduces the need for documentation. So it also reduces the maintenance cost, and prototype can be used for producing expected results. Why it will reduce the maintenance cost? Because in the prototype stage itself, we have identified what all the customer is going to face the problems. Already we have rectified those problems in the prototype stage itself. That's the reason its maintenance cost will be very less. And prototypes can be used for producing expected results. Why we get expected results? Because we have tested them initially with our own vendors, with our suppliers, or with our stakeholders who are involved in this particular organization. So first, any mobile company, it makes a mobile and it will not directly release into the market. It will first give samples to its employees. The inbuilt employees, they will use the mobile for 1 month or 2 months, and they will say the drawbacks that will come in that particular phone. Then they will rectify those problems, and once again they will give to the their employees. They will use them. If they feel that it is not having any sort of problems, then only it will be released into the market. So that is what the reason they will be using prototyping. Generally, this prototyping technique we use in NASA. So just like that, we cannot prepare the rockets or satellites. First, they make a prototype. They test the prototype. If the prototype is successful, then they go for the original. Because for inventing any satellite, it takes crores and crores, billions and billions of millions of rupees. So before making that investment, they create a prototype, a small thing with minimum features. They will test it. If that is successful, then they go for the original product. That's the reason they go for the prototyping. So here, as we have said, the prototype has so many dangers that it has some weaknesses. And here, the users may misunderstand the role of the prototype, or the lack of project control or standards is possible. So additional expenses for building the prototype. So at the initial stages, before the construction of the project itself, we need to make certain investment. We need to spend some time when we make the prototype. So here, the approval process and control is not strict. Here, the requirements may frequently change and significantly. So, designers may prototype too quickly without sufficient upfront user needs for the analysis. This could be another cause and can lead to poorly designed systems and can lead to false expectations. And prototype may have sufficient checks and balance incorporated in it. So all these are some of the dangers what we are going to see in this particular type of prototypes. And where exactly we can use this prototyping? So we can use the prototypes for the projects for development of an online systems. So whenever we are designing an online systems like mainframe systems, then we can go for this prototyping technique. We can go for a well-designed expert or decision support systems. We can go for a project which is large with many users, which have interrelationships and functions with a project with high risk relating requirements. At those projects also we can go for the prototyping. So we can go for prototyping when the objectives are not clear. Whereas in waterfall model, the objectives need to be clear. Here, if the objectives are not clear, then we can go for prototyping. So as the time passes, based on the requirements, we can change. So initially, there is no need for having the complete objectives. So here pressure exists for immediate implementation of something. Since it is a prototype, we cannot take so much of time for just creating a model. So when there is an immediate need for that particular product, then we need to go for the prototype model. So user is not fully knowledgeable. In those cases, we can go for this prototyping. So only after using, he will find out some problems. Then he will say what are the modifications that are required. So here the team composition need to be stable, and the project manager need to be experienced, and users may not be fully knowledgeable. And here not only the team manager or the team leader, team members also must have some sort of experience while developing the prototype models. So here where we cannot use these prototype models means we cannot use these in web-enabled e-business systems, where the project team composition is unstable, where the future scalability of the design is critical, where project objectives are not clear, project risk regarding the requirements, the definition is low. In such kind of situations, in such kind of cases, we cannot go for an prototyping model. Then coming to the iterative model. So here an iterative life cycle model, here what happens in an iterative, it does not attempt to start with full specification of the requirements. Instead, the development begins by specifying and implementing just part of the software, which can then be reviewed in order to identify the further requirements. So this process is then repeated, producing a new version of the software for each life cycle of the model. So in this model, when we work iteratively, we create a rough product or produce a piece in one iteration, then review it, and then improve to the next iteration, and so on until it is going to get finished. So here in this particular iterative model, the key objective is for the development and delivery of the high quality system at a relatively low investment cost. So whenever we want to develop fastly, deliver the product with high quality and relatively with low investment cost, we need to go for the iterative models. So it attempts us to reduce the inherent project risk by breaking the project into smaller segments and providing more ease of changing during the development process. So it aims to produce us the high quality systems, primarily by the use of iterative prototyping, by using a computerized development tools. So these tools may be graphical user interface builders, GUI, or it can be computer aided software engineering tools, or it can be a database management system, or it can be any fourth generation programming languages, code generators, and object oriented techniques. So by using these tools, we can develop this iterative model. So here the key emphasis is on fulfilling the business needs with technologies or engineering excellence is given the lesser importance. So project control involves giving priority for the development and defining the delivery deadlines. In such situations, we can go for iterative model. So here the active users involvement is imperative. So iteratively produces production software as opposed to a throwaway prototype. So here also the product documentation is necessary to facilitate future development and maintenance. So here also we need to make the product documents. So standard system analysis and designing techniques can be fitted into the framework while developing the iterative model. So here the advantages of a iterative model is, in iterative models we can only create a high level design of the application before we actually begin to build the product and define the design solutions of the entire product. So later on we can design and build a skeleton version of that and then evolve the design based on what had been built. So the iterative models, we are building and improving the product step by step. Hence we can track the defects at the earlier stages. This avoids the downward flow of the defects. So here the operational version of the application is available much earlier than the waterfall, incremental or spiral frameworks, because RAD produces systems more quickly and to a business focus. So this approach tends to produce systems at lower cost, very small cost. So this concentrates on essential system elements from user's viewpoint. So in the iterative model, we can get a reliable user feedback when presenting sketches and blueprints of the product to the users for their feedbacks. So here we are effectively asking them to imagine how the product will work. So here it provides the ability to rapidly change the system design as per the demands by the users. So produces a tighter fit between the user requirements and the system specifications. So generally the products what we are producing by using this particular iterative model will save the time, money and human effort. So the iterative model, less time is spent on documentation and more time is given for designing. So, and let us see some of the disadvantages of this model. So each phase of an iteration is rigid without no overlaps. So more speed or lower cost may lead to lower overall system quality. So dangers of development system with a business due to missing information. So projects may end up with more requirements than needed. That is one more disadvantage we can see in this particular iterative model. So there is a potential for inconsistent design within and across the system. So difficulties with the modules reused for future systems, because the documentation is done with a little effort. So difficulties with the modules reuse the future systems. So in future, if you want to use this particular system or read the code, the documentation will be very little. So this is a potential lack of attention to the latter system administrator needs to build into the system. So costly system architectures or design issues may arise because not all requirements are gathered upfront for the entire life cycle. So these are the disadvantages of a iterative model. Then where exactly we can use this iterative model? So we can use these projects for small to medium scale and short duration projects. So which are very small or which whose the project size is medium, we can go for iterative model. And the projects which are going to run for short duration, we can go for the iterative model. And here the project scope is focused such that the business objectives are well defined and narrow. So when the business objectives are well defined and narrow, we can go for these sort of projects where the functionality of the system is clear, visible to the user interface. Then we can go for the iterative model. So here the requirements of the system are unknown or uncertain, then we can go for the iterative model. Where the team composition is stable and continuity of the core development team can be maintained, then we can go for the iterative model. We can go for iterative model when effective project control is definitely available. In such kind of systems, we can go for iterative model. Where technical architecture is clearly defined, then we can go for iterative model. So these are the different ways where we can, places where we can use the iterative model. So here, when the technical requirements are reasonable and well within the capabilities of technology being used, and targeted performance should be less than 70% of the published limits of the technology, in such cases also we can go for the iterative model. So the key technical components are in place and tested, where the technical architecture is clearly defined, then we can go for the iterative model. Then where we cannot use this iterative model? So this iterative model is not good for very large infrastructure projects, particularly large distributed information systems such as corporate or wide databases which it is having. Such kind of projects we cannot use. It is not for real-time systems or safety critical systems. We cannot go for iterative model. So for computationally complex systems where complex and volumes of data must be analyzed, designed or created within the scope of the project, for such systems we cannot go for the iterative model. So here, where the technical requirements are tight for the equipment that is to be used, and where many new technologies are to be introduced within the scope of the project, then we cannot go for the iterative model. So here, these are the different places where we cannot go for the iterative model. Then coming to the incremental model. So this application to be delivered is broken down into a number of components, each of which will be actually used by the users. So each of these in the development as a separate project or increment. So here we are going to use this incremental model when we have different stages. So each stage need to be done separately. When we can do them separately, then we go for this particular model. So here this approach has had a very vocal advocate by Tom Glib. Tom Glib was the one who had given. Glib argues that the initial focus should be on high-level business objectives. So these may be many ways in which the important objectives can be achieved, and we ought to allow ourselves freedom in the way we try to achieve these objectives. So here we need to identify the system objectives, and we need to incrementally deliver our plan. So here there are two things what we need to. One is to create open technology plan. So we need to ensure that the technology what we are using or that facilitates the addition of components to the existing application. Then we need to go for planned increment. So incremental plan is necessary. So this planned increment, so here what it will do, it will help us to develop the nature and order of the increments to be delivered or need to be delivered to the users. We have to be planned at the outset. So then we need to go for this particular incremental model. So various methods are accepted for combining linear and iterative system developments. So with the primary objective of each being to reduce the inherent project risk by breaking the project into smaller segments and by providing more ease of change during the development process. So here a series of mini waterfalls are performed in incremental model, where all the phases of the waterfall development model are completed for a small part of the system before proceeding to the next increment. So here the overall requirements are defined before proceeding to the evolutionary mini waterfall development of the individual increments of the system. Or we can say that the initial software concept requirement analysis and designing architectures and the system core and defining or using the waterfall approaches, followed by the iterative prototyping, which culminates the installation of the final prototype. So in these cases, or by using these basic principles, we need to go for the incremental model. So here, let us see the benefits of incremental model. So this is potential exists for exploring knowledge gained in an early increments as later increments are developed. So since we get feedbacks for early stages used in the development for developing the later stages. So moderate control is maintained over the life of the project through the use of written documents and formal reviewing and approving by the user, and the information technology management and which designates the major milestones. So user gets some sort of benefits earlier because the project may put aside temporarily and reduce the gold plating. So here this helps to mitigate or integrate the architecture risk earlier in the project. So here what happens, stakeholders can give concrete advices of the project status throughout the life cycle. So this makes or this allows the delivery of a series of implementations that are gradually more complete and can go into production more quickly as incremental releases. So this gradual implementation provides the ability to motivate the effect of incremental changes, which solves the isolation issues and make adjustments before the organization is negatively impacted. And this also has some disadvantages. Sorry. So loss of economy of scale, software breaking. So when utilizing a series of mini waterfalls from a small part of the system before moving on to the next increment, there is usually a lack of overall consideration of the business problem and technical requirements for the overall system. So because of this, there may be a loss of economy of scale. Since some modules will be complicated or since some modules will be completed much earlier than others, so well-defined interfaces are required. So difficult problems tend to push to the future of demonstration, early success of management. So because of this, there is a great software breakage. So these are the disadvantages of incremental model. Then coming to the spiral model. So here a spiral model is similar to the incremental model with more emphasis placed on the risk analysis. So here the spiral model has 4 phases. One is planning, risk analysis, engineering and evolution. So here a software project repeatedly passes through these phases in iteration called spirals in this model. So this is something which is like spider. You can see. So it is starting at the first phase and it is going, completing one complete cycle, then again starting. So it is going in this way. So that's the reason it is called as a spiral model. So the baseline for this spiral starting in the planning phase. So it will first initially start in the planning phase. So here it is starting in the planning phase, then going into the risk analysis, then coming to engineering phase, then it goes to the evaluation phase. Then again it goes to the planning stage, like that. So here, this baseline of the spiral starting in the planning phase, then which requirements are gathered and the risk is assessed. At each subsequent spirals builds on the baseline of the spiral. So this black line is called as the baseline. So here in the planning phase, first the requirements are gathered during the planning phase. Requirements like BRS, that is business requirement specification, or SRS, that is system requirement specifications are gathered. Then we go to the risk analysis phase. In the risk analysis phase, a process is undertaken to identify the risk and we need to identify the alternate solutions. Then a prototype is produced at the end of the risk analysis phase. If any risk is found during the risk analysis, then an alternate solutions are suggested and then it will go to third phase, that is implementation phase. So this implementation phase is called as an engineering phase. So here in this phase, the software is developed along with the testing at the end of the phase. So hence in this phase, the development and testing is done. So this is called as coding and testing phase. Then once after completing the testing phase, we go to the evaluation phase. So this phase allows the customer to evaluate the output of the project to date before the project continues to the next spiral. So once after developing, it will undergo all the 4 stages. Then it will go to the next phase. So here the focus is on risk assessment and on minimizing the project risk by breaking the project into smaller segments and providing more ease for changing during the development process, as well as for providing the opportunities to evaluate the risk and weightage considerations of the project continues throughout the life cycle. So here, excuse me, in each life cycle involves a progression through the same sequence of steps for each portion of the product and for each of its level of elaboration, from an overall concept of operation documents down to the coding of each individual program. And in each trip around the spiral, 4 basic quadrants. One, we need to determine the objectives, alternatives, and constraints of the iteration. Then we need to evaluate the alternatives. We need to identify and resolve the risk. Then we need to develop and verify the deliverables from the iterations. And fourthly, we need to plan the next iteration. So being each cycle with an identification of stakeholders and their win conditions, and each and every cycle with reviews and commitments. So here there are so many advantages and disadvantages. Advantages and disadvantages in the waterfall model. So the advantages is high amount of risk analysis and hence avoids a risk is enhanced. Good for large and mission critical projects. Strong approval and documentation control. Additional functionalities can be added at the later date. Software is produced early in the software life cycle. So these are the different advantages. So here it enhances the risk avoidance by using this particular spiral model. So this will help, or this is useful for selecting the best methodology to follow for the development of a given software iteration based on the project's risk. So this can incorporate waterfall, prototyping and incremental methodologies as a special cases in the framework. And coming to the disadvantages, can be costly method to use. So risk analysis requires highly specific expertise. Project success is highly dependent on the risk analysis phase and does not work well for the smaller projects. That is what I mean to say is, it challenges to determine the exact composition of the development methodologies to use for each iteration around the spiral. So highly customized to each project, and thus it is very quite complex because it is having limited reusability, and a skilled and expertised project manager is required while doing this kind of spiral models. So there are no established controls for moving from one cycle to another cycle. That is another disadvantage. So without controls, each cycle may generate more work for the next cycle. So these are the different disadvantages of the spiral model. Then where we can use the spiral model and where we cannot use the spiral model. So this spiral model works good for real-time or safety critical systems, where we can risk avoidance is given higher priority. In such kind of projects, we can use this spiral model. Where we have minimizing resource consumption with less priority, in such kind of situations, we can use this spiral model. So when the project manager is highly skilled and experienced, we can go for the spiral model. When there is a high degree for accuracy is required, in such kind of projects also we can go for the spiral model. Then where we cannot use the spiral model is when the risk avoidance is with low priority, when there is a high degree of accuracy is not essential, where the functionality for high priority over implementation is not there, where minimizing resource consumption is absolute priority. In such cases, we cannot go for this particular spiral model. Now, coming to the next model, that is Agile model. So this model is also a type of incremental model. Here the software is developed in incremental rapid cycles. So this results in small incremental releases, with each release building our previous functionalities. So here each release is thoroughly tested to ensure the software quality is maintained. So it is used for time critical applications or extreme programming, or in the one for most well-known Agile development life cycles. So here the different advantages and disadvantages of Agile model is, here when the customer satisfaction by rapid or continuous delivery of useful software, people and interactions are emphasized rather than process and tools, where working software is delivered frequently, face-to-face conversations is the best form of communication, where close daily cooperation between business people and developers, when continuous attention to the technical excellence and good designing is required, regular adaptation to changing circumstances, even late changes in the requirements are welcomed. In such kind of models, we can go for this Agile model. So these are the advantages of the Agile model. And what are the disadvantages of the Agile model is, So in case of some software deliverables, especially a large one, it is difficult to assess the efforts required at the beginning of the software development cycle. Then such cases, we cannot go for this Agile model. So this is one of the disadvantages, where there is a lack of emphasis on necessary designing and documentation, where the project can easily get taken off track if the customer representative is not clear with final outcome that they want. That is a disadvantage. Only senior programmers are capable for taking the kind of decisions required during the development process. So here the senior persons only take the decisions. So only when, since the juniors cannot take the decision, this is a drawback for the Agile model. So here, when we can use this Agile model means when new changes are needed to be implemented, or when a freedom is given for Agile, then we can go for this Agile model. So new changes can be implemented with very little cost because of the frequency of new increments that are to be produced. And to implement a new feature or to develop what we can say, well, we can say, so to implement new features, the developers need to lose only the work of within a few days. Then we can go for the Agile model. So unlike the waterfall model, in Agile model, very limited planning is required to get started with the project. Since Agile assumes that the end user's needs are even changing in a dynamic business and IT world. So this effectively gives the customers the finished system that what they need. Okay. So here this Agile model, what happens is the only senior people can take decisions, and when there is a high expertise, like when there is no clear documentation or designing, and when there is a need for high documentation or high designing, we cannot go for this particular Agile model. So that's the reason. In those cases, we cannot go for the Agile model. Now, let us see the V model. So here the V model means verification and validation model. It is just like the waterfall model. The V-shaped life cycle is a sequential path of execution of process. So each phase must be completed before the next phase begins. Since the V model is one of the many software development models, testing of the product is planned in parallel with the corresponding phases of the development. We call this as an V model. So for each and every phase, the testing is being done in parallel. Understood? So here, when the business requirement specifications are gathered, at that phase itself, we go for the acceptance testing. So when the system requirement specifications are gathered, we go for system testing. So at each and every phase, when there is a need for the testing, at that phase simultaneously, then we go for this V model. So there are various phases of the V model. Once the requirements like BRS and SRS begins the life cycle model, just like the waterfall model. But in this model, before the development is started, a system test plan must be created. So that test plan focuses on the methods, the functionalities specified in the requirement gathering. Then we go for high level design, HLD phase. So this phase focuses on the system architecture and design. Then it provides the overview of the solution, platform, system products, and services. So an integrated testing plan is created in this phase, as well as in order to test the pieces of the software system ability to work together. Then coming to lower level design LLD phase, here in this phase is where the actual software components are designed. So it defines the actual logic for each and every component of the system. So here the class diagram with all the methods and relations between these classes come under LLD. So the components tests are created in the phase as well. Then coming to the implementation phase, this phase is again where all the coding takes place. Once the coding is completed, the path of execution continues up to the right side of the V model, where the test plans are developed earlier are now put to use. So here then coming to the coding phase, this is at the bottom of the V-shaped model. So the module design is converted into the code by the developers. So unit testing is performed by the developers on the code written by them. Then coming to the advantages and disadvantages of V model, this is simple and easy to use. Here the testing activities like planning, testing design happens well before the coding. So this saves us a lot of time, hence higher chance of success over the waterfall model. So here it is a proactive defect tracking, that is its defects are found at the early stages. So there in waterfall model we are going to test only after completing all the phases. But here in each and every phase we will be parallelly doing the testing. So that is the advantage of a V model. So it avoids the downward flow of the defects. So here if the at the initial stage itself, if we get a defect in the waterfall model, we cannot identify the model until we have completed the last phase and we have gone for the testing. Here it's not the case. Here the defects are identified at the earlier stages itself. And the disadvantages of waterfall model is it is very rigid and least flexible. So software is developed during the implementation of this phase. So on early prototypes of the softwares are produced. So here where we can use this V model means the V-shaped model should be used for small to medium sized projects where requirements are clearly defined and fixed. So in these cases we can go for the V model. So the V model shape should be used. The V-shaped model should be used to choose when ample technical resources are available with needed technical expertise. So higher confidence of customers is required for choosing the V-shaped model approach. Since no prototypes are produced here, so there is a very high risk involved in meeting the customer requirements. So thank you very much. In the next class we will complete our second unit. Thank you very much.